Why is it so important to raise and preserve objections at trial? I'm Tulsa attorney James Wirth, and that is the topic that we have today, and it's kind of spurred by this case published today. It is Charles v. State of Oklahoma, M22-174, decided today by the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, and they had two issues in that case. But the important thing for this video is that these were things that were not objected to at trial. So the defendant is now alleging that an error occurred at trial, and the defendant's attorney did not object it then, did not preserve it as an objection at that time. And therefore, when they appeal that and they say, hey, my trial wasn't fair, I was denied these issues, the judge made these mistakes, the court looks at it and says, first thing, was there an objection? If there was not an objection, then it gets a different standard, a higher standard, and it's called the Plain Air standard. And actually recites what that standard is here. It says, to be entitled to relief under the Plain Air Doctrine, appellant must prove, and appellant, that's the person that is appealing, in this case the defendant, the existence of an actual error, a deviation from a legal rule, that the error is plain and obvious. You have to prove that it's a plain and obvious error. It's not enough that it's just an error. It has to be plain and obvious because it wasn't brought to the court's attention by an objection. And that the error affected the substantial rights, meaning the error affected the outcome of the proceeding. You have to prove that the outcome would have been different but for this error. And the courts, particularly in Oklahoma, with the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, makes that a very high standard. So if you are going through a legal proceeding, it's very important that you have good counsel that is monitoring everything and is making those objections. So if you're ever annoyed by the attorney getting up and noting an objection for the record and interrupting the pace of things, know that attorney is trying to preserve a record for appeal so that they don't get that plain air standard. And that is the reason for objections and why they are so important. If you're dealing with a legal issue in Oklahoma, though, you're going to want to talk to an attorney about your specifics, get a confidential evaluation and legal advice. To get that scheduled with somebody at my office, you can go online to makelawEasy.com.